Well, again, I'm doing something a little different. I watched the new Resident Evil film, which serves as a reboot for the movie universe. And seeing as my first video review was Resident Evil 3 on this channel, and Resident Evil 2 was my first ever video review on the old Shaken Not Nerd YouTube channel, and Resident Evil 8 came out this year, I thought, screw it, why not talk about the new movie, and who knows, if you like these videos, maybe I'll just start sprinkling them in. So, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is a reboot or restart of the Resident Evil film series and distances itself from Paul W.S. Anderson, who thankfully has gone on to ruin another Capcom title.
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate.
Chocolate.
Now, before I get into it, I'm not a massive Resident Evil fan. These games scared the fuck out of me as a kid, so I generally avoided them like the plague, but I've played the remakes of 2 and 3 as well as Resident Evil 7 and 8, so I know a little bit about the series. Anyways, the film merges both Resident Evil 1 and 2's games into one movie, and seeing as some of the environments and costumes seem closer to the source material, I went in not with high hopes, but with more hopes than I had watching a Paul W.S. Anderson film, and damn, I was disappointed. So the story starts off with Redfield siblings in the Raccoon City orphanage, which is being run and used as a testing grounds by William Birkin, so you already know what you're in for. Anyways, we get some Easter eggs before we see Claire Redfield being played by Kaya Scaldario in a fuel truck driving down a road, basically pseudo-copying the opening from the Resident Evil 2 remake, but sadly that's where the movie starts to divert a bit away from its source material. Now, I won't break down everything different, or well, personally what I found wrong about the film, just like as my thoughts with video games. If you're interested in something, you should check it out and form your own opinion, but we'll start with the characters. Now, Claire Redfield isn't Claire like she is in the video games, especially not Resident Evil 2. She's aware that Umbrella are evil and potentially experimenting on people rather than just trying to find her brother who's been missing for a couple of months. Instead, Claire Redfield is a bit of a try-hard badass, a bit like Sarah Connor in Terminator Genisys.
Come with me if you want to live.
No, definitely not.
Chris Redfield, played by Robbie Amell, is, well, Robbie Amell. That's not to say he's a bad actor, no, because he's funny in The Babysitter, but he's a bit of a generic character, really. Hannah John Kamen's Jill Valentine wasn't actually too bad, until there needed to be some emotional element added into a scene, and then there was just bad writing. Sadly though, Leon Kennedy and Albert Wesker are just bad. Let's just say Wesker isn't trying to screw over the STARS team and blow up the mansion like he is in the game, nor is he cold and calculated. But Leon Kennedy just isn't Leon. He isn't going to Raccoon City to start work as a cop and getting caught in the Raccoon City outbreaks. No, he's already started, and Donald Lowe's Chief Irons has him being a front desk clerk. Leon here is a bit of a comic relief character with nearly every word coming out of his mouth being fuck. William Birkin, Chief Irons, Sherry Birkin, yeah, they're in this film, but they're not really the characters from the game, so if you're a proper Resident Evil fan, you'll be disappointed that these characters have been wasted, probably again. But on top of these characters, the location of Raccoon City itself, well, I'll tell you right now, it's not a city. Raccoon City is basically a small town. Now sure, the police station sort of looks like it does in the game, and so does the orphanage, but everything else in Raccoon City feels like Silent Hill or something out of a slasher movie. There's no tall skyscraper buildings or really any tall buildings, there's no alleyways, there's no sewers. It just feels out of place because we do see there is a checkpoint with Umbrella keeping citizens trapped inside. The police station is huge in nature with underground car parks like in the game, but the town itself feels like its police station should be just this little local building rather than trying to copy it straight out of the game. Like, here's what it looks like in the video games, here's what it looks like in the Paul W.S. Anderson film, and then here's what Raccoon City looks like in this film. Spencer Mansion does and doesn't feel like Spencer Mansion at the same time. The whole story about getting to the mansion and why stars are there obviously takes inspiration from the game, but it also ruins the tension of, well, zombies. See, in the first game we see a zombie eating someone and we're freaked out by it because this is the first time we're seeing something like this. However, the film copies this iconic shot because, well, it's a damn iconic scene, but we've already seen zombies in the film by this point and the setting of the scene is just ruined. Speaking of zombies, another area you might be disappointed in if you ask me. Now previously in Paul W.S. Anderson films we've had the T-virus and shambling zombies. Here they're weird zombies, if you can really sort of call them that, and yeah, their standard grotesque features that you'd expect a zombie to have are CGI, or at least that seemed that way in some points of the movie, and they looked pretty crap. Now, some might consider this to be a spoiler, but there is no Nemesis, no Mr. X, or Tyrants here. There was a scene where I was sitting and waiting for Mr. X to break through the wall, and no, sadly nothing. Lastly, when it comes to negatives really, it's just the action scenes and how they try to set up some jump scares. Now, without going into spoilers, there's an explosion in the film where two characters dive out of the way, but the entire room is engulfed with flames. Basically, imagine the explosion in the lobby in the first Matrix film when the bomb goes off in that elevator. Only for two characters to be under a destroyed wooden desk or two, just dust themselves off and keep going. Where again, without going into spoilers, a horror or jump scare point in this film has a zombie get closer to someone only for them to completely disappear and then appear literally right next to them so the character can turn their head. Now sure, that works for something like say Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, but zombies do one thing and one thing only. They eat. They're not going to think about changing positions to get a scare on someone. A zombie sees people like a giant walking Hershey's bar. Also, there's some attempted comedy here in this film that falls pretty damn flat, actually really damn flat. The cinema I saw this in had some fairly loud audible groans anytime comedy was thrown into this film. But there are also some things that Welcome to Raccoon City does kinda well. Seeing as Raccoon City, or well, the town of Raccoon as I would call it in this film, has a lot of Umbrella posters and references. Yes, Raccoon is the home of Umbrella, but seeing posters inside the orphanage basically like a propaganda poster is actually kinda cool. For fans of the games, which would be most of the audience, there's Easter eggs galore. Now, one thing I wanted walking into this film was a close-up of a door, and yes, we got one. Lickers were actually lickers, and they're like T-Rexes, and we don't get a POV shot showing what lickers see.
I'm not blind 23 hours a day or 22 hours a day. I'm blind the whole goddamn time.
Now, you can tell this is a low-budget film, and I appreciate giving another crack to the Resident Evil franchise because the game series starts off simple enough before going into boulder-punching territory, but it would have been better to have this movie cover just the events of the first game. Set it inside the mansion with the zombies and the dogs and the hunters, basically have it set up and copy the formula of the games. Then, if the first film did well enough, fans of the movie and the game would want to see the sequel because that would be Resident Evil 2. If you merge the budget and some, not all, but some aspects of the Paul W.S. Anderson film, like Raccoon City being an actual city, like the Nest, like the actual T-Virus, merged with this Resident Evil movie, then I think you'd have a fairly decent film. The best way to sum up this film is like it's a below average action film or a CW movie, like Stallone's Judge Dredd, Street Fighter, or any Terminator film set past Terminator 2, but with a lower budget and basically making it a CW movie. But again, if you're interested in this film, watch it for yourself and form your own opinion, and if you have seen it, then let me know your thoughts down in the comments below.